who might have been Piper, John Piper, or somebody like him, said, when it comes to missions, you're either going, sending, or you're in disobedience. And I'm really pleased to be able to say our congregation has responded so positively to missions in many ways, but in particular, the relationship that we've established in Guatemala through Food for the Hungry with the village of Santa Cecilia. And we had a group of 21 who went this time, but a group of many, many more who were helping send them as a result of the fundraisers that occurred in support of that, as well as the funds that were made available through the mission committee, as well as just plain donations that some people gave in order that this trip could happen. 3 dentists this time, along with a project team that was busy helping build a new classroom, couple new classrooms down in Santa Cecilia, among other things. Now, the person who should be reporting at this point forward is my wife. She is under the weather this morning. Believe me, she would be here if she could at all. So I am filling in. She gave me something to read because she didn't want me to get it wrong. And so I'm going to read her part, and then you'll hear from others. And I think as this is going on, I don't know, are we playing pictures in the background so you'll be able to see? We're not going to specifically talk about those, but they'll be going on as various people report. Good morning. That's the first part. It's with joy and thanksgiving. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I think this was the 5th trip that we've made down there in the last 6 to 7 years. Liz Mulhern, who led the first 5 of them, or the first 4 of them, is here this morning. So you can see Dick and Liz. It's great to see you guys back for a Sunday here. They've had a vested interest in what's going on in Guatemala, and so really grateful to have you here. All right, I'll start over again. Good morning. It's with joy and thanksgiving that we can tell you that we just completed what we would all call a very successful trip to Guatemala. Of all the trips I've taken, Patty's been there, I think, 4 of those trips, I found myself calling this one my favorite, and it was. Each trip has its own special memories, but for several reasons, this last trip confirmed for me our commitment to a partnership with Santa Cecilia. First of all, it's always good to go back to renew friendships from previous trips and see how the children have grown. Seeing the children was a highlight for me because it had been 4 years since my last trip. The community was glad to see us. The day we arrived, the entire school, community leaders, and many of the town people came out for a celebration in our honor. Secondly, I was happy to see the physical changes in the community, the growth and progress. On one of our days, the community leaders made a presentation to us that detailed how they viewed their progress during the time that FH and our church have been partnering with them. We began our relationship in Santa Cecilia in 2008 and made our first trip in 2009. Their goal is to become self-sufficient during the 10 years we and FH would spend in the community. It was impressive to see from their perspective how their lives have changed for the better, and to see their forward thinking. Both men and women leaders in the community presented charts and diagrams detailing their progress and their plans for the future. To complement the community's thoughts, on our last day in Guatemala, we met with the National Director for Food for the Hungry in Guatemala City, who made a presentation that showed significant progress in many critical focus areas where FH is working. One interesting thing that a new member of our team commented on, and might also be your reaction when you look at our pictures, they said, "But the children look healthy." That is deceiving. Indigenous peoples in Guatemala rank as the worst in Latin America for malnutrition-induced stunting of growth and 3rd worst in the world. Our teams have seen firsthand the effects on children who don't have sufficient nutrition in their first 2 years, not only as it relates to stunting, but to brain development and overall health. The most important reason I liked this trip was because the Lord gave us many opportunities to share the gospel and hand out gospel tracts and Bible booklets to people we met. This was the first time we've done actual evangelizing on a trip of this nature, and Kurt will tell you more about some of those experiences in a few moments. So I'd like to say thank you to a great team. We were split 50-50, new and former members, and everyone did a wonderful job of knowing what needed to be done and jumping right to it. And also, we want to thank our church family for the wonderful support you've given us financially and through our many fundraisers, and especially through your prayers. We could not have made these trips without you. We hope our reports this morning will be an encouragement to someone to investigate a future mission trip. And now, while I still have the microphone, I never get rid of it, but anyway, I still have it. I'd also like to report on our VBS program. We had 200 plus children at each of our 3 VBS sessions. This is always an interesting experience because I think children have very few programs just for them in this community, and they are a squirmy bunch when they get together. But that's an understatement. I've seen that. But in spite of that, we spent 3 afternoons sharing the gospel in word, in song, and in puppet presentations. All of the team who were not involved in dental work were always on hand to help corral and focus the kids. But there were 3 young ladies with us who did a very special job of getting their attention. There was always a noticeable hush when Hallie, Mary Grace, and Daisy began the puppet show. Each day, the puppet show was a gospel presentation with the theme of wearing the armor of God. There were crafts every day that they could take home to tell them how much God loves them and how much we love them, and to remind them to wear God's armor. And before and after the program every day, we played a lot of games. Again, thank goodness for our young ladies. They played endlessly and enthusiastically with the kids. We all had fun. And when the noise and excitement died down, our prayer is that we planted some seeds of God's love and mercy in the hearts of these children. Keep praying for that. So this morning we're going to hear from, you've heard from Patty, from next Julie. We'll talk a little bit about the purpose, home visits, Jill. We'll talk about the construction project, Randy, Mother's Meeting, Julie Otteson. Dental, Jim and Brian, and evangelism, Kurt. So with no further ado, we'll ask Julie to come on up. Whoa. Thank you. Trade you.
Good morning. I would like to first of all give props to Dr. Cassidy's daughter, Mary Grace. As you see, some of us are wearing our team t-shirts, and if you look on the back, Mary Grace designed all of this. And so it was really fun to have that connection directly within the team, that our artwork was team inspired, and we wore it on the way there and on the way back so that we were just easily identified in the airport, all wearing blue. So a little bit of what I'm going to talk about is our purpose of why we go. You know, we are called, I should have probably gotten together with Pastor Dave because I'll be quoting John Piper as well. It's exactly what he said. We are called to serve God's people with whatever gifts God has bestowed upon us. Some of us are called to send, some of us are called to go. But regardless, we are called to use our gifts, whether it is leading a group, financially supporting a group, or praying for a group. You are all part of that missions team. And so we thank you for answering that call wherever it was. We are also to adopt Christ's purpose towards the world that he came to redeem. Acts 1:8 says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." So this verse to me does not mean you will witness the gospel of Christ in Eaton, Colorado, where you're comfortable. You will witness the gospel in Colorado or just in America. It is to the ends of the earth. We believe in boasting in only the cross everywhere we go. So some people have asked, I just want to touch on this, kind of can be a touchy topic, but we have had church members, patients, people in our own families for both Jim and I say, Why would you go help these people? Some of them dump their children across the border. Do they deserve it? Are they appreciative? I'm going to address that in a couple different ways. First of all, the enemy enjoys that. He enjoys seeing his believers try to question whether or not they should go serve out God's purpose. I know myself, I can have my own doubts. Can we financially afford to sponsor our dental staff to go and their spouses? Should we be taking time away from work? Should we be taking time away from our kids? But the bottom line is we need to rely upon God's word. And that is sharing the gospel, whatever cost that comes to you. I know I don't want to get what I deserve. I am grateful that God gives me mercy and grace when I definitely do not deserve it. So as far as me saying whether or not they deserve it, that is not up for me. Because I get so much more on a daily basis than I should ever get. So when we go down there, we go with open hearts and open minds, just giving without questioning what God wants us to do. I can also assure you, though, these are not children in this village that their parents would ever dump them at the border. This is a very well-connected village, a very sense of strong community. They are not there to leave their area. They love where they live. They love where they're at. They're thrilled beyond belief that they have visitors because they do not get visitors. They take pine needles off of leaves and cover their dirt floors in their homes when you come to visit them because they're so grateful someone has taken the time out of their life to come share the gospel with them, to come take care of their teeth, to come show their children a VBS. Kind of a funny story, as you all know, I love on every baby in this church. I was loving on the babies down there, and this will show you that they're not there to try to pass everyone off on you. I was holding a lady's baby, and of course she spoke not even Spanish, she spoke K'chi, their tribal language, and I had just looked at her and I could not turn this baby down, it was too cute. And I looked at her and held out my hands, and she held them to me, and I held them for a few minutes, and then this is not universal. I thought it was. This is not a universal body language. I went like this to the baby to say, "Oh, so precious," and to hold it back. And she panicked and went, no, like, give me my baby back. She thought I was saying, "Oh, I'm going to take your baby." So that is not a universal body language. So I had to drag my great friend Dr. Dana over, who is a fluent Spanish speaker, to tell the child, to her other child, she had an older child with her, to translate to K'chi that this was, "Oh, your baby's precious. I'm giving it back to you." So little miscommunication. For a couple days, the moms in the village looked at me like, "There's the tall gringo lady who will take your children." Once we got that straightened out, they were coming up and handing the babies, and I was holding them, and they understood I was giving them back. But this will just show you that they are grateful. You're there to visit them. They are not there for any other agenda. Regardless, though, God used us to minister to his beloved. We are there to empower his people and show them the love of Christ. As John Piper says, we don't opt out of mission work because it might not be appreciated or needed or deserved. The book that we studied a couple years ago in our young adults class, Don't Waste Your Life, is really what drove me to missions. If you have not read this book, I would highly encourage you to do that. It's going to broaden your worldview and shake your world from your comfort zone. And trust me, I was living in my comfort zone. I did not think a missions trip was anything that we could do. I did not think it was something that I would have the desire or the courage to do. Read this book and it will open your hearts and mind to you were made more for than just your everyday life. You are called for more than that by Jesus Christ. I will end this with saying that may God give you a fresh, Christ-exalting vision for your life. And this is John Piper's words, not my own. Whether you go to an unreached people or stay firmly and fruitfully at your present post. These are my words. The mission field is your office setting. It's the classroom in what you teach. It's the field in what you farm. It's your neighborhood, your children at home that you're raising every single day. It's your city, your state, your country, and your world. It's everywhere. Go and serve with your God-given gifts wherever he calls you to do. Even if you doubt it, even if the enemy is whispering in your ear, you should not do this, you cannot do this. Deny him, take up your cross. Go and follow Christ. Do it glorifying God for his mercy. We are called to serve the least of these. Whenever we serve the least of these people, we're serving Christ. So that's our purpose, not only as a missions team, but as a church, to band together to serve the people from here to the ends of the earth. Thank you. And we have Jill up next talking about home visits.
We all had sponsored a child up there in Cecilia, and that was the joy of our time to get to go to all of these people's houses, and they really appreciate us coming, and this is what they waited for. Like one of the gals that I went to see last time I was there was Dean's little girl that he sponsors, and her mother was standing there waiting for our bus, and she says, "I'm Brenda's mom. I'm Brenda's mom." She remembered me when I got off that bus, which really meant something to me. And we had 18 home visits this year, where most of our people, some of them had 2 or 3 of them to go to. And usually we take an interpreter with us, because if we don't, we can't talk their language, so it's kind of hard to speak to them. So we took Levy was one of them, and Amy, the one we took last time, she went with us to most of them. And every child we would give them a gift, and generally it was clothes that we gave to them. And they really appreciate us coming into their houses, and because we sponsor them, and they were showing our appreciation by feeding us food. And some of us didn't know whether we wanted to taste it or not. But anyway, most of us tried it to show them our appreciation back. And we just had a great time in visiting each and every one of them. And it's an experience that you don't have here. And Daisy was too shy to come up here, but she said she loved every moment of it. She just loved all those kids. And she says, "Mom, I just go into a house. I go into a house." You know, it didn't make any difference who it was. She just loved it all, she says.
Well, good morning, everyone. This actually, I'm going to talk about the construction, but I do want to say this is my first time that I went with the kids, Riley and Hallie. And I just want to say that it's a whole different experience that Stacy has told me from the past year. She has gone until I went myself, and it's really emotional and overwhelming to go. But the construction project that we had worked on was 2 brand new classrooms. Every day as we went, Kurt, Neil, Tom, Riley, and I, a couple days that we went, we noticed that there were 2 or 3 different people working every day. And what it is it was more of a community project. People would show up to help during the project. So it was more of a community involvement. You know, people weren't getting paid and stuff like that to do it. As the week went on, we got dirty. We started, we were hoping we could show up and there'd be a backhoe, but that wasn't the case. We were, from the ground up, we're doing groundwork, so we're digging in trenches. We got dirty. if using short shovels because people there are short, so doing a little more bending over more than you had to. And we got to working with rebar and all thread. As you saw in the pictures, we were not using much electrical tools. We were using hacksaws, shovels, maybe a dead tree branch with a point on it to break the dirt loose. And it was really interesting. We did get some cages built, and it was a rebar cage, which is the vertical supports for the building. And as they were putting those in, it was time to mix concrete. Of course, you don't have a concrete mixer. We put all the material right on the ground, and you mix it with buckets of water, and you haul it to the trenches with buckets. And, you realize how bad a shape you're really in when we are so fortunate to have the tools we do to get the job done, and they don't. But we made it work. That's how they do it. They didn't ask us how we did it to make it easier. That's just how they've been doing it for years. And like I said, it was a really good learning experience for my kids and myself. And I wouldn't change it for the world. But as the people were working with us, they welcomed us with open arms. They didn't have any regrets that we were there, and it was just an awesome feeling. And as you can probably see in the pictures, we did get dirty, so. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
That's easy. Good morning. I'm really thankful that in Patty's presentation, she did mention that we did get to meet with the country director in Guatemala City, and he showed us a presentation that had some facts that I think I'm going to repeat a couple of them just because they affected this mothers meeting that we went to. Guatemala has the highest rate of chronic child malnutrition on the continent, it said, but it was Latin America, and the third highest rate of related stunting in the world. Children that don't grow to their physical potential because they don't have the nutrition they need, which is hard for us to believe. 51% of children in the general population are affected, but 80% of the children in the indigenous communities, like our Santa Cecilia, are affected. That this results, and this was a point in his presentation, this results in human beings, the same ones who are made in God's image, just like you and I, who are never able to fully develop their mental capacity or their physical stature. That they never reach their potential. So one way that FH responds to this chronic nutrition in Santa Cecilia and in other places is to monitor the growth of infants and children and babies, toddlers, up to 2 years of age. At that time, they're weighed, they're measured to be sure they're growing, and they're given supplemental nutrition when they're not. So Thursday of our week was the day for a monthly weigh-in of babies and toddlers. So the mothers all came to the clinic in the village, and outside on the tree, they hung a scale so they could weigh the babies. One thing, so our team invited the mothers that were there for their monthly meeting for their monthly weigh-in to a meeting, and Patty, bless her heart, was able to provide a snack and a small gift for all the moms. Dana, one of our dentists, or orthodontist, I guess, had a chance to talk to the moms about caring for their children's mouths because there are a lot of these little sugar shacks, and babies are fed Coca-Cola or sugary juices. And the dentist will probably tell you some of the things they saw. But we got a chance to see babies who were fat, who were breastfed, who were healthy, who smiled and dimpled like we're used to seeing. And that was a real blessing. I had the opportunity to share a short devotion. It was based on Proverbs 22:6 that says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he was old, he will not depart from it." The point of this devotion was that we as mothers, and we're in the same boat as they are, that we're concerned for our children and we want them to grow up and be healthy in every way. And we want them to reach their full potential. This verse teaches us that, as well as others, that God expects us to teach our children about Him, and that our full responsibility in having them grow the way they should is that they should know the Lord. Teaching their children, that they should teach their children that God loves each one and has a plan for each life, and that knowing that each child has a plan should lead them to a feeling of hope. And that hope is one thing that is so important for people. And it's a reason why their children need to reach their full potential, because there is more for them. They have a hope of heaven. They have a hope for a life filled with love and direction, and that's a wonderful gift for them to pass along to their children. So the mothers' meeting was more probably a benefit for me than for them, but we hope to encourage them that there is a reason for them to want their children to reach full potential. Thank you.
Did you prepare anything? I tell you, go ahead.
I'm Brian Cassidy.
Dr. Cassidy and Jim Kennedy, it's nice to see you all. And we thank you for your prayers and support. Again, going down there, we've been buddies for the last 3 years, helping out with the village of Santa Cecilia and trying to get the oral health care bumped up a little bit. Dr. Dana isn't with us today. Again, she's an orthodontist, so she had to kind of backstep a little bit. It had been, what, 17 years?
Yeah. She had been doing orthodontics for, 15 years or so, and so she hadn't done any restorative or extractions, things that we mainly do down there. She wasn't able to wire anyone up, so she was out of her comfort zone.
But we all went down there with open hearts and open minds, and all we required was open mouths. So, but I had written down Psalm 41:1, joy to those who show kindness to the poor. And I tell you what, when we come back, we feel like we sometimes haven't given enough. They're so appreciative for what's being done. And we feel like kings and queens down there. And it was just an amazing trip. I don't know if you want to talk about getting there and our equipment.
Yeah, so this year was pretty easy going through customs, which was nice because the previous 2 years we had some challenges. One year we weren't sure if we were going to get our anesthetic through, which is a little bit important to us. But this year we really did fly through pretty well, so that was encouraging. And
Patty's totes.
Yeah. Patty's totes were gone through a little more than the dental, which was interesting. So that was a pretty easy route for us this year. Lord prepared a way. That was good.
So yeah, we always have these monumental, plans, and it was funny. A patient said to me when we got back, he goes, one sure way to make God laugh is to tell him what your plans are, because it ain't gonna go that way. And that first trip was certainly more so than this one. This was pretty smooth. We didn't hike a volcano, but I did bring some ashes back. You saw the people wearing masks, so this is from the Volcan del Fuego, is that right? The volcano of fire. I was going to bring it back for Ash Wednesday, but I wasn't sure if the Catholic Church was going to be able to prove that. But you can check them out afterwards. It was pretty cool. That's why we're all wearing masks. And then you can see in this picture, there's Dr. Dana doing our there it is, our dental demo. So we were able to dress up and bring puppets for all the teachers, and we left those there. And there's one gal that we were supposed to take this one puppet home, and she just wanted it so bad. I mean, it's like she wanted that stampede and really, really wanted this puppet. And so hopefully they're able to use those for dental educations in the classroom. We'll talk about progress.
Sure. I was also just going to mention that in the beginning, that first day when they welcomed us, we were able to do some demonstration, and Dana, speaking Spanish, was able to share a lot with them directly this time, which was nice because previously we did it through interpreters, and it took 2 hours to teach someone how to brush their teeth. But it was very helpful to be able to have her expertise in language to be able to share. And so with her toothbrush costume on, she shared quite a bit about how often to brush each day and what foods to eat and not to eat. So that was very helpful. And what did you ask me?
Well, I was going to say, too, as far as the clinic, we're hoping Jack and Twyla were there one morning because we had this problem before where the electricity went bye-bye. And we showed up, and we got in a circle, and we prayed, and we said, whatever needs to happen will happen. So they went to get generators for us, which took about 2 hours. So it was God's timing, just like Pastor David had talked in the sermon. Sometimes your prayers are not your timing, but it was a very great opportunity for Dr. Dana and ourselves to re-educate, to repeat, to the mothers and all the kids that were there. I mean, she was going around making them laugh. We gave them toothbrushes, talked about oral hygiene. It was really God's timing. Those 2 hours were very productive, and we thought, oh man, we're out of power, we can't do anything. But we were, and they were just laughing, having a good time. She's talking about not eating sugary foods, and Brian and I are handing out vitamins to all the kids that were like these sugary gummies. So hopefully that wasn't sending a mixed message to the to the crowd. But so that was a unique time. Again, we're very thankful for Dr. Dana's Spanish abilities. I poor kids, and they had to deal with me. The first young boy walks in, and I'm like, "Hola, chica." And so I've already insulted him by calling him a girl. I'm like, "Oh, subeta a la silla, ¿cómo estás? Abre la boca. Tiene dolor en los dientes." And Jamie, who does speak Spanish, who's my assistant, was sitting across from me thinking, man, he really was listening to those Spanish discs on the way to work for those 5 minutes over the last couple of weeks. And so, but then all of a sudden I'd say something like limpy arse, and he's like, why did you just tell him to clean himself? And I'm like, I don't know. It was like I was at Mucho Grande. I was at Taco Bell.
My first patient that I had, we had a challenge with. So she chose, after much encouragement, to cry through my giving an injection and cry through my initiating the cleaning out of the decay. And then at the end of cleaning the decay out, she took the little mouth prop out, threw it on the floor, and decided she was going to walk out. So I was thinking, this whole time with Heidi, I hope this isn't how our week is going to go, or we're not going to get much done. So fortunately, the rest of my team was able to encourage and joke with us, and even though it was a little girl, they told us that I got to have a hole-in-one.
I'm trying to think. But again, going back to Dr. Dana, she took on a really hard case down there. One of the leader's wife had 11 teeth that she extracted, and the teeth were broken off into the gum line, so you couldn't even see the teeth. And so I thought, really, you're going to do this? And she went for it, And I was sitting with Jaime trying to get my Spanish going, and I looked over and I saw Dr. Dana taking these teeth out like a champ, and obviously she was being led by God's hands. And then all of a sudden I look over, I see her on her knees, and she's pulling this tooth. I think, wow, this must be a hard one. She's praying and pulling at the same time. This is pretty incredible. She's multitasking, but just getting the angles on those teeth. And I think there was a slide that showed that extraction site. So it was pretty impressive to see her do that. I mean, Brian's good, but yeah. So as far as numbers, just to let you know, and some stats on the dental, there is improvement happening, and we saw less of these really big abscesses and infections in these kids. We did about 160 fillings, 137 extractions, and a new number is 136 sealants, which is basically protecting the healthy teeth. And instead of just going and pulling these bad teeth, these kids are starting to get it. You know, there's still some grubby mouths, but to be able to go on and do sealants, we didn't do one sealant, I don't think, on our first trip. So, and applying fluoride as prevention for the teeth, for cavities, and then the repetitiveness of oral hygiene for these kids is awesome. So, it's definitely not wasted time for us going down there, and so I think we both were happy to see improvement for sure. So.
I would just say that it's fun to be able to go down and share, you know, the gift that we've been given as dentists. But most importantly, we hope that as we share that, they know that we come as the feet and the hands of Christ.
So awesome. Thank you. Who's next?
Well, good morning. One of my goals this time to go to San Cecilia was to just do a little bit more, and that was do some evangelism. In my past trips, I realized the importance of evangelism, and so I thought I would give it a try. And we're talking with Pastor Dave. He suggested that we'd go with this 4 spiritual laws. So we ordered some booklets and got some in Spanish and bilingual, and went down there and started passing some out, and was hoping to get a translator with us. And about Wednesday, we were able to devote Wednesday to doing some visits. And Dana's husband Neil and Tom and myself and Levi went to do some home visits. And they were all very welcoming. We'd go in their houses, we'd sit, we'd go with the spiritual laws, we'd pray. And I just gave Dave a list of names. I asked, write your name down, and we'll take it back and we'll pray for you. And when they found out what was going on, they'd take my notebook back and they'd put more names of their families down. They just wanted their families prayed for. That's how valuable they realized prayer is. And that was very enlightening. And you don't know where you're led when you're walking down these little trails, these houses, and you just go. And they're always welcoming. And we went to this one house, and her name was Marcella, and her nephew, Emmanuel, was out working a small little patch of ground. He's clearing it out, and they're getting ready to replant. And so Levi and I went over, and we started talking with him, and he had his head down, and you could tell he was really sad. And I just went through the spiritual laws. I just read everything. And Levi translated into Kutchi, and we got done reading the whole book. We started praying, and I'd prayed in English. Levi converted into Kutchi, and Emmanuel, he would recite the prayer. And then went back and talked with Marcella. And then Emmanuel was not done with us. He wanted something, I don't know what it was, but through Levi, we found out that he had this disease, and he just wanted to go away. He wanted some financial help, and he had epilepsy. So we more or less, Levi was explaining to him that he needs to look to God and turn to God and let God take care of him. And then I was also giving out some Bible stories through Jesse. And I asked Marcella if she could read Spanish, and she said yes. And so I gave him a book, and he took the book and started looking at the pictures. Well, that says right there that he was really getting the message about turning his life to the Lord. And he probably did know the Lord, but we don't know. So that kind of struck me really. It felt good, like how we get to this trail and go to this house, and we just made some other home visits and had a good day. And one thing I noticed, and Tom noticed, is that the houses that we visited, we could see the little projects that they did in Vacation Bible School. Those kids were proud of those, and they were hanging on the wall. So that was pretty neat. So that was a good day of evangelizing. And then Thursday, we didn't have any translators available, but Friday, it was going to be a short day, the ceremony. And I talked to Lady about maybe in the morning doing some more. She said, sure. Of course, it's raining, and that's okay. We'll just go out. And we went for a couple hours in the morning. We just started heading a different way. Well, that's not going anywhere. Let's get on this trail here. So we went on this trail here and through the water and the mud. It's raining, and went up to this one house. And all we saw was a bunch of dogs barking. They wanted a piece of us. And this pretty soon we heard this lady say something. The dogs quit. And you hear this lady, her name was Olivia Cho. She didn't live there. She was just there to get water. The same time we walked up the path. And you could tell she was bothered, and Lady started talking with her and found out that her husband left her 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks earlier, and she had 2 children. She had no way of supporting those children. I'm not even sure where she lived. She was just there when we were there to get water. And just, God has weird plans, and we're just following right into place. It's just amazing. And so Lady did some consoling with her and comforted her. And the story that she had was her husband liked to be with other women in the community. And he wanted to bring one of his new wives home to live with her, and she wouldn't have anything to do with it. So he just said, I'm done with you and the kids. I'm taking the money, I'm going. And she was just left desolate. So that was unusual. And that was a Friday morning, and we did some more home visits. And the last house I went to, there was about 8 kids in the family. I had one book to give away, and I gave away that book. And they were just really surprised. They got a Bible story book, and it was amazing. So then we head back down, and it's time to get ready to go to the ceremony the community's going to have for us. And we got back down, and early that morning, Lady said that a gentleman had passed away. A young man had drowned. When we got back to the community center, we found out that it was Emmanuel that had epilepsy. He had drowned. He had a seizure and fell down the water and drowned. And so it was Wednesday, Thursday night, he passed away. So when you go to evangelizing, timing is everything. It really is. So one of the things that I notice in mission work is that it says in Matthew that the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. And when you go on a few mission trips, you realize the need to go down there and to work. And so another thing John Piper says that God is most glorified when we are satisfied in Him. And when you're down there working, you really get the satisfaction of what you're doing. Thank you. Also, I forgot to note that Pastor Dave has been talking about praying and so forth. Well, I have lists of all the people that would like your prayers. I gave Dave some copies. And the back is a picture of Emmanuel. You might think of him. Thank you.
Well, that's a great report. I hope you're as encouraged and as challenged as I am. And as we pray, where do we go from here, particularly with regard to Santa Cecilia and when? Please be praying with us about that, when what the Lord might have in mind, as well as other mission projects that the Lord may have in mind for us. And by the way, I should mention thanks to Elaine who put the slide presentation together today. And we are missing a few people who either couldn't be here or are sick this morning that were on the team, but thanks for all of you who were here. we already have, as you can see, 2 characters on our dental team. If you could meet the third one, you would realize, man, she fits right in. And it's a great thing to be able to be part of what they do, as well as the heart that God has given Kurt and Tom, who I'm not sure he'd ever done something like that before. They're out evangelizing. It was a wonderful experience to see what all went on down there. So thanks.